Loneliness is often most felt around people. When we're alone, we're alone. So like, it's normal to feel alone. But when we're in a room full of people and we feel so alone, that feeling of loneliness, the only thing I found to anesthetize it for brief periods of time, it started a little bit longer, but for brief periods of time, was pornography. And the solution for me was not so much to focus on the pornography. Yes, I had to put distance between myself and viewing pornography because it created a numbing effect on me that I couldn't really feel what I was feeling. But once I put a distance to it, then those urges came back, very intense urges. And at that point in time, there was nothing to fight. I just had to address the underlying reasons. And the underlying reasons, in my case, a lot of it related to loneliness or low self-esteem or, different stories I'd created about myself or where my life is going, and addressing each one of those and kind of picking them off and, removing some of the harsh edges around it so it doesn't have the power to
influence.
To throw me off.
Right.
Yeah. And it's not that they're not there. I can, there still are urges. I spoke on the conversation with Yossi Jacobson where it had been years, but I'd watched porn for the first time in 4.5 years or so. It's not that it's completely gone. It's not eradicated. I know that a certain level of stress, till this day, a certain level of stress still gets me thinking there. Still gets, like, my mind will go like, oh, maybe that will still work. Almost like a old program.
Right.
I was like, oh, you're stressed? I have a tool that will work, and it will work. But it'll work for like 90 seconds.
Right.
And then I'll be right back. So you start developing tools to address it.
What are some of those tools?
Awareness is big, just knowing where you're at, I was speaking to someone the other day, and I said, sometimes we get on the train and we don't even know we got on the train. And then other times we get on the train and we see ourselves getting on the train. And that's the awareness factor.
That's step one.
So, yeah, it could be the train of maybe a storyline in my head. Someone's single for a long time, they go on a date, and again, they don't man, I'm never going to meet anyone. And that feeling sets in. So you just got on a train, right? I'm never going to meet anyone. That's a train. That's like, desperation, despondency, whatever, right? Some sort of giving up or resignation. And that train, whatever we want to call it, is a dangerous train to be on. You stay on that for too long, you're going to end up in your addiction. So there was a period of my life where I just got on those trains without even noticing I was on it. There I am in the resignation train.
This is the train too.
Right. It's a train to hell, but we don't even know we got on it. The story kicked in. The
Atlantic
feeling
Terminal,
take over. So the step number one is just the awareness. It's like, hey, I'm off. So in 12 steps, they have, step number 10, they call it continue to take personal inventory, and when we're wrong, promptly admitted it. In layman's terms, just means check in with yourself from time to time, because usually it takes some time for it to build up. If everything's good, it's a small blow is usually not going to throw you off, but it's not the little dirt that makes us stink. It's like a few days of like just dirt accumulating and us not taking a shower that suddenly no one wants to be in a room with us. So that's where it's at, is noticing at the end of the day is like, hey, I got to take a shower. And checking in on a regular basis, that allows us to have the awareness like, oh, wow, that really threw me off. That conversation really threw me off, or that really triggered me. And then from there are many tools, whether journaling is a huge tool for me. I have an app in my phone that dates back to 2012.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
10 years.
Like you journal like daily?
I used to journal daily. Now, no. But if there's strong emotions coming out, I've found that the pen or typing is just a beautiful way to get that.
What app is that?
Get that out. I use my W days, but my wonderful days, and just what's really cool for me about it is being able to read old journal entries from, if I'm feeling, sometimes you can get a feeling like, wow, you end up in a situation like, wow, I'm here. I'll give you an example. When I watched porn again about 6 months ago, right? So what had happened, and I shared about it on Yossi Jacobson's podcast, a friend gifted me a VR headset. And I stopped watching porn, or trying to stop watching porn, at around 2013, I think.
Wow.
So I've been on this journey for a while, and even though I've slipped a number of times during it, I'd never got to experience VR porn. So I was curious, and this thing sat there, and I was checking out some of the other things, and the guy gave it to me saying it's amazing for meditation, believe it of all things. And the thought crossed my mind when he gave it to me, like I shouldn't take this home, but I couldn't shake it. And a few days later, there I am, watching porn on it. And a thought that came in is like, wow, like I'm such a farce. Like I talk about porn. Like here I am watching this stuff. Like who the hell am I to talk? Like should I delete everything? I got to call the TED guys, just take everything. Like who the hell am I? And it's been years that I, not that you sometimes bump into stuff, but it's been years that I intentionally went to watch pornography. I'm like, whoa. And then another feeling is like, well, I'm not getting anywhere, right? All my work and I didn't progress, right? You can have that kind of feeling sets in. And that's definitely been a loop in my head that can, like one of those things that can get me is like, wow, all this stuff and I'm not progressing. And all I got to do is read old journals and see the stuff I wrote in 2012, 2013, and you're like, wow, it's a different guy. Like the stuff I'm dealing with, and yeah, there may be one issue that's still persistent, but by and large, it's not the same. And I think anyone who's on the path will see that.
It's an awesome idea.
So, and then talking to people, you got to talk to people. Got to talk to people. Like, I almost think of it as energy, right? There's a negative energy inside. It's got to get out.
Right.
So, it's going to come out through writing, it's going to come out through speaking, or it's going to come out through my puppet, right? It's got to come out in some way. And hopefully that wasn't too graphic for the audience, but the energy's got to the room, like everything changed when I said that, but the energy's got to come out in some way. And I found for me, and everyone has to find their ways. Some people it's hitting the gym, but it's not things that distract from it. It's not, let me get the energy out in an indirect way.
Right.
That doesn't do it because the energy that is still in there energetically. So if I'm feeling some sort of negative feeling, I don't know, something triggered my self-esteem and I'm feeling down about myself, then I want to write about that specifically. I want to speak to someone about that specifically. Or else that energy needs to get released.
Okay, you say that again, the point that it's the energy behind why you're doing it.
Correct. Right. What is the reason? And that's why I said the very first step is the awareness of it.
Right, you have to be attuned to your feeling first. Right, you have to be attuned.
Right,
Yeah.
One of the most difficult parts of addiction is that it numbs us so deeply. So if people are walking around a bubble, you talk to them about these things and you realize you have a low self-esteem. They don't even know what you're talking about. Like, what are you? So I feel good about myself. You don't feel anything. You haven't felt a feeling in years.
Wow.
We're just numb. We're walking around numb because every single time a feeling comes up, we escape, numb, or distract with something else. And if you have an addiction, that's the purpose of the addiction, is to numb that pain. So I'm hearing these terms at the beginning, and I don't know what anyone's talking about, but eventually you get some space between the addiction and where we are today, and then real feelings start coming up. Not what we imagine to be feelings, but actual real feelings, from inside us. And then we got to deal with those. We got to deal with those, or it's going to drive us right back to the addiction.